Hey guys, we're back with another rediscovering vinyl with Ryan and Nick, and we got a good one for you. Ryan, what are we doing this week? What are we listening to all
Uh,
week?
we are doing we're doing Van Weezer, which is Weezer's newest album. First off, great cover. I think it's an awesome vinyl cover. Just just cool. We're both grew up Weezer fans, listening to Weezer. I mean, Hash Pipe, I think, was the first. I know they had a lot of stuff before that, but at the age that we were at, Hash Pipe, I think, was the first song that I fell in love with Weezer. Then I looked at their older tracks and fell in love with a lot of their other stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
So this one kind of hits home in a different way for us, which I'm excited to get into and talk about a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. So this record has a really kind of a crazy history too. So before we get into the tracks and what this thing sounds like, it was announced in 2019, but didn't get released till May of this year, which is
Is that, I mean, is it because of COVID? Is that why?
yeah. So they wrote this record for the Hella Mega tour. So the Fall Out Boy, Green Day, Weezer tour. They wrote it and were promoting it. They were kind of jam them together like as an album and a tour
Uh-huh.
thing. And because COVID delayed it, uh, their other record. This actually came out 4 months after OK Human, which is so they had two albums come out within 4 months. So it was really crazy to
Right.
have two Weezer records like back to back essentially. So that's kind of weird.
And that is unique, and I know Weezer, they lost a band member. Well, how many years ago was that now, Nick?
Good question. I don't know. I didn't even
I
think to
it
check
was a
that.
quite. I mean, I feel like it was just yesterday, but I feel like it was almost 10 years ago. If right around there. And I know. So I have a cousin that is a big Weezer fan,
Uh huh.
and he was at the show the day that their member passed away, and instead of canceling the show, Weezer continued on and played without their bandmate, even though he had passed away that earlier that day.
Oh my
And I remember
gosh.
my cousin telling me about the concert, and it just he had seen Weezer a few times before, and he said it just was a different show. It had a obviously a different tone to it, but it was almost like a we want to pay tribute to our band member and our friend and our family member, essentially, if you think about it. And hearing that story from my cousin made me appreciate Weezer in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really excited to listen to this album. I don't know. I want to hear a little bit more about the history. I do have a lot to say about the tracks. But what else do we know about this album, Nick?
He was, in that era. They had just done Teal. They had just gotten off of the Teal album. Then Black album was coming, and Cuomo was feeling that it was time for some big guitars again. He was ready for big guitars. He was ready for shredding. He said that uh, when they were playing Beverly Hills in concert, that the crowd would just get up and they were just getting going. He's like, we need more big guitars. And he kind of, with the Total Africa energy and Teal and all that, it just kind of happened. It kind of like he knew this is what they needed to do, what they wanted to do to get more energy in the shows, and he announced it, and there it is.
Cool. So let's get into a little bit of the tracks
Yeah.
because you know I for those of you that maybe this is your first time listening to us, just to let you guys know, we know that Weezer is a professional band. These guys are professional musicians. They know what the hell they're doing when they're playing their craft, and we appreciate everything that all these artists are presenting to us. We try to take a look at it and just kind of give our 2 cents for what it's worth.
Yeah.
But we also know that these guys are professionals at what they do, and they've been doing it for a very long time at a very high level, and nothing but respect for everything that they've ever done.
That's why it's not
If
a that's
I'm
why it's not a record review. That's why it's called Rediscovering
no,
Vinyl. We're trying to highlight and
right.
show you new music. We're not really going to review it. We're just going to explain it and try to get you excited to check it out. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Ryan.
absolutely. And my first time listening through Nick, kind of to bring it to the other side of the coin, I was kind of disappointed at first.
Really?
I didn't I didn't. I don't know. And again, going into the album, I think I was expecting um, a little bit more energy
Uh huh.
with some of the songs. The first time listening through it, I turned it off and I was like, man, I am bummed. I am bummed because I'm a pretty big Weezer fan. I
Uh
mean,
huh.
I don't love them, but I'm always been a big Weezer fan, and I was bummed out, and I
Wow.
think I took a second and reflected on the first time listening through it, and I realized that I think I had a misconception going into this album.
Okay.
When I when I saw Van Weezer, and I instantly thought that this was going to be kind of like when they did Toto and made it a Weezer style, like almost like a remake of a classic song. I was expecting some more higher energy 80s metal style, but Weezer
Okay.
expectations. And it didn't start, the album doesn't start off like that. It's a lot.
Hero?
It was
Hero is
yeah.
awesome.
Well, okay, hold on. Now, the album that I got, Hero, isn't the first song.
Ah.
So I don't know if because those of you that have listened to us before, I'm a big proponent to the first song on the album. To me, it sets the tone.
Yep.
And
What was
when
the
I
first
listen to an
album?
album,
First song you had?
so I'll get there because once I looked up the vinyl tracks and saw that they were in a different order, I listened to it in the order in which it's on the vinyl, and I enjoyed the album a lot more.
Okay.
Because to me, I love the way an album has an arc,
Yep.
and when an artist figures out that arc and that story, that is what turns me on to an album a lot of the times. So when I was listening to it the first time through, the first few songs, I'm like, really? This is what they're starting this album off with? When you sit there and tell me that they wanted big guitars, these are the songs that this is what they wanted?
What song
Because
was it? What song was it?
uh, as an amateur guitar player, I was like, this is boring. Like, this is not what I wanted at all. So the first track on the iTunes version of this album is the
Ah.
end of the game.
Oh, the
And
third song.
that, yeah, and Hero is the third song
Oh my
on the
gosh.
iTunes. So it goes end of the game, all the good ones, Hero, I need some of that, beginning of the end, Blue Dream, one more hit, Sheila can do it. Um
She Needs Me and
She
Precious
needs
Metal Girl.
me, Precious Metal Girl.
They
So
flipped them.
fairly similar.
Just
But
first and
again,
third. Yeah.
that flip of those songs though made a huge difference to me. It really truly did. And I know that sounds odd, but it really did because Hero had the type of energy that I was expecting
Mm-hmm.
right away. And on the vinyl, they start the album off like that. And I'm very great. I don't know why it's flipped around in the iTunes for me,
I think
but it's in
someone
a
in Apple
different.
screwed it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
Those
they just botched it.
bastards.
There she is.
So again, as I re-listened to it and put it in a different order, I still didn't love every song. I didn't love every song, but overall, I ended up enjoying it as I listened to it more and more. I think my mentality was more 80s metal style with
Mm-hmm.
Weezer's kind of twist to it, rather than the mellowish feel of like the song I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but the one that sounds like Black Sabbath.
Yeah, Blue.
I
It's
believe
called
that is
Blue Dream.
a
Starts
Blue
off
Dream.
with
Yeah,
yeah, Crazy Train.
I liked that one. I did. And some people might listen to that song and be kind of irritated because Crazy Train is such a classic Sabbath song and you don't mess with the classics like that. You know what I mean? Like you don't just take Crazy Train and Weezer it up. It's just
Yeah.
not something that you naturally hear. And even hearing it at first, it felt awkward at times
Yes,
in,
it
in a
did.
weird Weezer kind of way.
The
You know what
first
I
time
mean?
you listen
Like,
to that song, you are like, I don't know if I like this. And
I
then
know,
and
yeah,
then you hear it a few times, you're like, okay, I dig this. This is really cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like once I came to terms with like, look, Weezer is awkward to begin with.
Yeah.
Weezer's guitar lick, their licks on their guitars in their original songs are awkward. They're augmented, they're minors, there's all these not natural chord progressions when it comes to some of their licks on their guitars. And that is what makes Weezer Weezer. So to hear them do a rendition of Crazy Train and do it in their own Weezer way did not sit well on my rock and roll bone. It just didn't at first. But I think eventually that became one of my favorite tracks on the album. Obviously, Hero is a great track. That one is a lot of fun to listen to. Um, the one thing I didn't quite come to terms with fully yet, Nick, and maybe this is me being me. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes his vocals does not match the style of the music that they're playing in the background. Did you catch that at all, or is that just me?
I well
Like
again
his
awkward a little.
the tone of his voice is. I mean, he's not a blow you away vocalist. Like
Hmm.
he never has been. He never will be. He knows that. It's Weezer. Like they're nerd rock. You know, like
Yeah.
they have their sound and we love their sound, you know,
Yep.
but sometimes the vocal parts just didn't quite mesh with the musical part of the album. But again, Weezer fans are going to love that, I think. And I will eventually come around on it. At first, it's just hard to hear sometimes.
Yeah. So I will. I have to say that this is one of my favorite. I think this one and OK Human are their strongest albums in probably 8 years. I
Sure.
instantly fell in love with this record,
I'm,
especially the
I'm
first
with you,
half.
Nick. I eventually got there. I'm with you. Like
Yep.
it's definitely their most well-rounded for sure. It just took me a little bit is all.
I
I didn't want to just don't give up on it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
okay. Now Hero, all the good ones, End of the Game. Those three songs are monsters. I do agree that there's a few soft ones on there, like Sheila Can Do It. Took me a while to get into that song. One More
Sure.
Hit. The first time I listened to it, it was just kind of like a little cringy, and then I just got it. And I really like his writing. It's so simple. Like all the good ones, he meets this girl in the corner shop, and he tells a story through. It's very simple. It's very easy to understand. It's super catchy. Um, and then Precious Metal Girl ended up being one of those songs
Yeah,
at the end of the album that I was like, this is a fucking good little slow jam at the back.
sure.
I thought that
Yeah.
was really
And
cool.
it's and that's not something that they normally do when it comes to their writing their stuff. Like it's a little bit of a departure, you know.
Yeah.
when when I put this on, the couple times after I listened to it the first time, you definitely start. I caught myself tapping along. Those of you that don't know me, I like to drum. I air drum. I constantly hitting stuff. If disclaimer, if anybody ever finds an air drumming competition, please let me
We'll enter
know
you and your
because
brother.
I will enter in. My brother and I will jam and we will rock the hell out of some air drums. But anyway, I found myself kind of tapping along with some of their stuff, and it started to, um, I you know, as I listened to it, Nick, I realized that I hadn't listened to a full Weezer album in quite some time, um, and it made me realize that that's probably why it didn't quite sit well right away with me.
Hmm.
I've been branching out a lot with my styles of music and listening to a lot of variety of different stuff. You forget, you know, what simplistic goodness can sound like
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, and just a couple power chords with some nice palm mute and some basic distortion. What that can do, you know, and what you can do with that is still rock and roll, you know, and I appreciate that about Weezer.
I think you nailed it on the head. Simplistic rock and roll is what this is
Yeah,
with those awesome guitar licks. Now, here's something that you didn't realize. Maybe listening to the album, you heard a few things in there that you're like, oh, I recognize that. So in the credits, there are a bunch of songs that they credited. Obviously, the most obvious one's "Crazy Train" for Blue Dream, but "In the Heat of the Moment" was by Asia. was
Yep.
"It Needs Some of That." That song, it was in there. "Don't Fear the
I caught
Reaper."
that. Yep.
"Don't Fear the
Don't fear
Reaper"
the Reaper.
was in another one.
Absolutely. Hmm.
Motley Crue's "Girls, Girls, Girls," I think was "Sheila Can Do It." So they took licks from those iconic '80s songs and rejammed them into their own songs. I thought that was something really kind of unique, and I think that it. Okay, so I saw Hella Mega Tour. We should also talk about that. So I saw this tour, and he's up there on stage in a all black jacket with like straight up leather jacket with all the studs, like a million hilariously amount of studs. He's got an explorer with a lightning bolt. I mean, it's the most 80'd out he can do. And
Sure.
he says, he's like, I wrote this song for this tour, and he's just like shredding and it was the most high energy Weezer show I've ever seen. I've seen it probably 3 times now. And this one was the most upbeat, the most fun. Just like this record, like it's a sunny day car drive. You're singing along,
Sure.
tapping along. It's sunny, it's easy. It's you sing along to it. It's basic. It's simple, like you said. It's for me. It's a car record for sure. Um, and yeah,
You
he
know,
just killed it.
I think we forget too, I think it's intelligent on Weezer's part to say like, look, we aren't an 80s metal band, but we listened and grew up and were influenced by 80s rock and 80s metal. And there's nothing wrong with paying homage to music in general. And this was Weezer's way of saying thank you to some of those artists that shaped them for who they are. I mean, I think about some of the musicians that have influenced me over the years,
Mm-hmm.
and it's such a wide variety. And how do you pay homage to something that has so much variety? And Weezer kind of did that with this album, and in a way that appreciated the style of the time that they grew up. And because without those bands, without those songs, maybe they wouldn't have fallen in love with music as much as they did. So
Yeah.
hats off to them. It's not easy to do, and they did it tastefully. They did it respectfully. It wasn't a clowny kind of feel.
No.
It was cool. It was subtle. It was Weezer. I think everyone can appreciate that in general. So
Yeah.
definitely get the album, give it a try. And like I said, if you didn't fall in love with it the first time through, I didn't either. But as I listened to it more, tracks started to pop out, and I started to understand what the point of the album was. I'm glad that we chose this one.
Yeah. I the first beginning of this album just knocked me off my socks first time through. And it took me a while to get through the second half, starting with Blue Dream. Through Precious Metal Girl was probably the easiest to swallow, and then kind of filled in the middle on me. Um,
Hmm.
we have both the black vinyl and the limited edition hot pink. It comes on neon pink vinyl. So
Cool.
they're both $21. They're not expensive. They're both over on ToadHallOnline.com like they always are. Pick them up.
Sure.
We also have OK Human, which we've been putting in constant rotation at my store. Also an amazing album. I don't know, maybe one of these days we'll get around to doing that, but we got some other cool stuff coming up.
Yeah.
What would
Uh,
you what are you doing when you listen to this record, Rye? What do you did you
um,
figure out?
I, I I honestly I had it on while I put it on my headphones and did some yard work and just kind of zoned out. And I think you're right. It's got enough energy to like driving or doing things just in general around the house or going for like a bike ride or something, just putting it
Yeah.
on and just kind of cruising along and enjoying Weezer for what Weezer does and appreciating their, like I said, their simplistic style goes unnoticed sometimes. And back to the basics is sometimes what you need to do. And understand that those little off chords that they play, those little augmentations, those little minors, they're unique. So appreciate it.
Oh, I lost you there for a sec. Oh, I think you're back. Got a little frozen there.
Um, no, we're good. But yeah, I was a big fan of it, Nick. I'm glad we did this one.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, that's Rediscovering Vinyl. If you have a chance, jump on over to the channel. You can check out all our other episodes over on the channel. Hit that subscribe, like, share button, and tell us what you thought. Have you listened to Van Weezer? Do you think it's better than their last records? Did you like it? Obviously they did Total Africa on Teal. Maybe that's what got them going in this direction. I don't know, because that's such a huge hit.
Yeah,
Probably there's probably
sure.
something to that. What do you think? Is it better than Blue? You like Blue better? You like Van Weezer better? You like OK Human better? Where do they go? Put them in rank. Put them in the comments. Just say whatever you want.
Yeah,
So,
we like reading stuff in there, whether
yep.
it's good or bad. It's fun. So,
Well, thanks, guys. We will see you soon.
see ya.
Yeah.